Hello and good day, everyone. Tara Palacios with Arlington Economic Development. We're going to take just a few seconds just to make sure that everybody gets on, and we'll be starting our program momentarily. I'm really glad we have a group of experts, as you can see to my right and left, that will be joining us for the webinar today. And we're really excited about that and so glad you can join. And so with that, you are in the right place. If you are here for today's webinar on ReLaunchARL, tools to revitalize, renew, and rebuild your business. My name is Tara Palacios, and I am the Director of Small Business for Arlington County. I have with me today Ben Schreiner with AWS, Eugene Clay with AWS, as well as Bill Knitter and Joe Macrillo. And so we've got some great subject matter experts. This is a new year and a new day, and welcome. Here's to a fabulous, great 2021. I'm so glad you all are spending your New Year's. And yes, it is still New Year's, even though it is January the 27th. I say for the full month of January, you have the opportunity to make those New Year's resolutions. It's never too late. And so with that, we know that it's been a really tough year. 2020, last year on January 27th, we were actually doing an in-person webinar. And why do I remember all these things? Everything from January on in 2020, I remember very vividly. Had a in-person webinar, there were 75 people, things were going great. And then all of a sudden, boom, we moved into March and we had to pivot and things had to change. And so those resolutions that we made at the beginning of the year ultimately had to change. And as a county and working with small businesses, we knew our businesses had to change. And so we're going to take the information from 2020 and we're going to forward that into 2021. Now I'm ready for that next slide. Into 2021, we've been working really hard since the fall with our friends from Amazon Web Services, otherwise known as AWS, to come up with tools and technology for our businesses. Because whereas in the past, we had the luxury, a business could say, well, I have my storefront, I have my restaurant, I don't have to worry about being online. My customers know how to find me. Well, fast forward from last year to today, if you're not online, your business may not even be existing. It might be very challenging and very difficult for you to accomplish goals. And so we worked really hard to come up with a program, which is this 4-part series called ReLaunchARL, where we're working with AWS and partners of AWS, like our friends from Innovative Solutions, to really help you to rebuild, revitalize, renew, use technology to take your business from one level to the next. Because right now, what we're seeing is that all of our clients and our customers are online. I read a report that just came out this weekend that said most baby boomers are buying their goods and services online. And that was something that was unheard of. You think, oh, a particular generation, millennials are more used to buying things online, older adult population, they'll never do that. Well, in the midst of a health pandemic, that's changed. We're now entering into a new normal about how people buy their goods and services. And so working with AWS, we've come up with this 4-part series, beginning with today's program. And we can go on to the next one. And what you'll be finding in our 4-part series are technology solutions for your business, websites, e-commerce tools, storage, security, making sure that your business is robust on all levels. Your clients, your customers can find you, that you're protecting your very important data, that you're really in the forefront. We did a mini audit of some of the businesses that we've been working with, and many times those businesses weren't on the front page. I couldn't find them. So if I want to go to my favorite restaurant, I had to really be creative. Are they on Facebook? Where are they? How can I order? how can I buy this good or service? So we'll be talking to you all about these different tools and how you can best implement them in 2021. Because everybody, it's January, it's a new year, a new day, and there are new tools that you can use to take your business to the next level. And so with that, to the next slide, I want to make sure that everybody stays in touch with us. If you're on the webinar today, please stay in touch with us. The URL that you see here, or you can go to our website, arlingtoneconomicdevelopment.com, and sign up for our newsletter, because we're going to have more information coming out as part of this series that will help your business through this. So what we want to do today is have you leave out knowing, oh, I've got to do this. I must make sure that I have these pieces in place so that you can utilize all of these different tools. And then we're going to have something coming up in the near future that shall remain nameless, but looks a little like relaunch, with some of our friends that are here that you'll be able to access. So we want to be able to communicate with you. So make sure that we have your contact information. And with that, I would like to say thank you. We really appreciate you all taking your time to be here with us today. Biz Launch, Arlington Economic Development Biz Launch, our friends at AWS, as well as Innovative Solutions. And with that, I'm going to turn you over to my newest very good friend, Ben Schreiner, who is with AWS, and he'll be going through this next portion of the webinar today. And I thank you all so much for being here. Just a little housekeeping before I go away, before I leave the screen. If you have any questions, make sure you put them in the chat box. We'll be saving questions for the end of the webinar, and I'll come back and I'll interface, and we'll make sure that you leave out today with more information that you came in with at 1:59. So thank you all, and thank you, Ben.
You're welcome. And thank you for the honor of being able to interact with this group and our friends at Innovative Solutions. So it's a privilege. I appreciate it. And I'm going to share some perspective from AWS and some of the things I've heard and learned over the last year, and more importantly, how AWS can help. And you'll hear very specifically from Innovative Solutions on some of the things they've done for other customers. So next slide. We learned just now, right, that we're all dealing with the new normal or the next normal. And I would argue that I don't think any of us have figured it out, but I think we can all agree that things have definitely changed, probably permanently. And technology is playing a bigger role in a lot of different industries, some that it didn't before. So the next slide. Hopefully you're familiar with this. The necessity is the mother of all invention from Plato, and I couldn't agree more, right? This pandemic has caused a lot of small businesses to really rethink how they engage customers and the services they provide and how they communicate with customers. This kind of shows a study that was done. Keep clicking, it'll build some circles and a timeline. Keep going. Yeah, so this is all about the S&P 500, which is obviously much bigger organizations than the ones that are on here. But the average time a company was on the S&P 500 used to be 33 years, and now it's projected to go down to 11 years. And the reason that companies aren't staying in the S&P for as long is this idea of digital disruption and the disruption that innovation creates. And again, we're seeing the pace of change increase rapidly. This survey that McKinsey did talks about 9 out of 10 companies believe their industry is due to be disrupted, yet only 1 in 6 thought they had the strategy to disrupt their industry. So the next slide will show that the frequency of change is increasing, very specifically in technology. The rate of change is incredibly high. And many companies and many small businesses specifically are leveraging technology to be able to compete in a way that they never could before. And it's leveling the playing field for many. You're able to expand your borders and not be dependent on just folks walking up to your store. You're able to sell online or take orders online. You know, all the restaurants now take orders online, which is, you know, they didn't before. And it's really changed the face of competition. So everybody out there has more than one number one priority. And in IT, that's certainly the case. And for many who know me, you know, you really should only have one number one priority, but in technology, it's really difficult. And the reason being, on the next slide, all of you out there are trying to figure out how to grow your business, right? Or stay in business maybe, or, you know, and that's one of the things that you're trying to do. That's a priority. The next slide shows that many of you are probably trying to change how you engage customers or improve the level of service that you provide. That could be another priority. The next slide is a build that has 3 different parts. I would argue that everybody in technology has to provide secure access to an application that your users or your customers interact with. And that application has to have access to data. And if you hit the button one more time, just so you understand the kind of nerd that's on the other side of the camera here, that does say Amazon Web Services in binary. So basically, secure access to an application that allows your customers and employees to engage with data so that they can deliver your product or service in a new and meaningful way. And I think all of us are challenged with doing more with less. Certainly in hard times, you know, we have to tighten our belts. We have to figure out how to make a dollar last longer. And in IT, you know, budgets are often cut, and it's tough to do more with less. So in technology, very specifically, we have to figure out what we're going to do different. I'll ask if you guys know Einstein's most famous quote. If you hit the button one more time. But this is a quote he didn't actually say, and it's the definition of insanity being doing the same thing over and over again, but expecting different results, right? And if you look at your business right now and the environment that we're in, if we keep doing things the same way and they're not working now, we can't really expect a different result. So you have to challenge yourself about what are you going to do different? What's going to change? How are you going to engage your customers in a new and different way? And I think this entire series is all about you deciding that it's time for change, whether it's pandemic driven or just your desire to change your business model. Now is the time. It couldn't be a better time to change and leverage technology in a new and different way. So this is another build. It's got 5 more circles. In AWS, we like to think of have a mental model, kind of a framework to think about things. And these are some common things that I see in the market of companies that are small and medium businesses that are doing things different and are considered a digital business. And the first thing is they're obsessed with their customers, right? They really understand what their customers want, what they need, and how to serve them. They're intent on innovating and finding new ways to do things. They're open to learn and test new ideas and experiment. They're leveraging data about their products, their services, and their customers to be able to provide new and different services or better bundles and packages for their customers. They're also trying to figure out how to be productive remotely, right? In this pandemic, we've all had to figure out how to be productive remotely, whether it's, again, engaging customers in new and different ways or leveraging our employee base in a remote scenario. And last and certainly not least is modern digital businesses have to be secure and they have to be able to expand and contract based on the demands of the business, whether they be seasonal or have spikes for Black Friday, whatever it happens to be, but you should only pay for what you use and not have to make big investments in technology hoping that people come. The next few slides are some highlights from an IDC research on digitally determined companies. First and foremost, that being digital is an advantage. Digital companies in small and medium businesses have higher revenue than their peers that aren't adopting technology. Digitally determined focus on customer experience and providing a different or a differentiated experience, new ways to interact with their product or service. Next slide. These digitally determined companies invest more in the cloud, right? Which is really where our group is trying to help these businesses do more with less and engage their customers in new and different ways. And then last, certainly not least, is these companies invest in technology capabilities earlier than their peers, and they're having benefits either in running more efficiently and effectively or being able to do more than the competition. These are 8 popular reasons that small businesses looking to do things different adopt the cloud, right? And hopefully you see digital transformation is certainly, reinventing yourselves, being more agile, saving money. Everybody needs to do that. But the next slide talks about having a strategy and really trying to figure out what you need to do differently, and then marrying that up with how can you leverage the cloud to achieve your objectives. And so the next slide talks about this continuum of where we see companies on their journey. And they usually start with a project to prove things. They build a foundation, they migrate their capabilities, and then this last step is where we see the digitally innovative, where they're continuing to reinvent themselves and add new capabilities so they keep their customers engaged and they keep things very current and fresh. The next slide talks about a bunch of different use cases that you could consider AWS to help you with. I'm not going to read all these. You can see them, and we'll share this content with you. But these are a lot of places where companies start, right? And this webinar series is going to touch on several of these. And our partner was going to talk innovative about one of these as well. The next slide is a couple of statistics. If you click it one more time, you'll see a couple of companies that maybe you've heard of. Traeger is a grill manufacturer. I'm in Austin, Texas, and we do a lot of barbecue. Traeger's got a great product. They were able to engage their customers by launching a completely cloud-based call center so that they could handle the call volume during COVID-19 and getting customers who are cooking at home now a lot more products and help and service in a new and different way. So you see some of the savings here on the left: improved security, better agility, cost savings. All of those are benefits of leveraging AWS to solve some of these digital problems. At the end of the day, cloud infrastructure is different than on-premise. You don't have to wait for a server to be shipped to you. You don't have to wait for a partner to receive hardware. You just click on buttons and you provision hardware and software. If that's not what your business is all about, that's where partners come in, and they play a pivotal role in providing the advice on how to take advantage of this new paradigm that is more secure and you only pay for what you use, which is incredible. Allows you to do a lot more and do more experiments. I'm sure many of you have heard of Gartner Magic Quadrant. I doubt any of you pay the price to be a subscriber, but for the 10th year in a row, a clean sweep for a decade, Amazon Web Services has been top right, which is the best, most robust vision for infrastructure and cloud, as well as top on the left-hand quadrants is the ability to execute. So there's a pretty big gap between us and second place. So I'd encourage you to explore, what we can do for you to help you achieve your business goals. And last, and certainly not least, this is the proverbial brag slide of all the things that we do really, really well. Whether it's almost 180 different services, whether it's the most machine learning happening in the cloud, 200 plus security features to protect your customer data and everything that you have. And last, and certainly not least, right, is the experience we have over the last decade of helping millions of customers be successful with our technology, and the ecosystem of partners, both software and delivery partners like Innovative Solutions, that help customers like you be successful with AWS. I really hope you get a lot out of this webinar series. I hope this spurred your interest. We certainly want to help you, and I thank you for your time and attention. I'll hand it back to you.
Thank you so much, Ben. One of the things that we did have a question about was if you could share the presentations, and I was able to chat with Miriam, and she said yes, which is great. So we will be able to share the presentations to the audience today. And I also want to thank you too, because I think everything that you were saying is talking about really using technology, not keeping your head in the sand, but using technology to be able to reinvent yourselves so that you can plow through what we're experiencing today.
Yeah, and I'd add one thing, right? Is you out there, you need to know your customer you better than
Mm.
anyone else. And if you don't know technology, but you know what you want to do for your customer, that's where we marry these things together and really try
Mm.
to change how you engage your customer or the service that you provide. So it's really about the customer and what you're doing for them and leveraging technology to do it in a very affordable and scalable way.
One of the, just a quick question before we jump in with Bill. Do you find we work with a lot of people, like I would consider myself a novice when it comes to technology. I want to think I'm cool and hip, but is it hard for people that aren't in the field to be able to come up with these creative solutions? You know, they're sitting on this, like how you were talking about the
Yeah.
grills and how they came up with this idea. I think it's awesome that they were able to do that, but
Right. So Traeger, right? They sell their products. They're in stores and so forth. But what they didn't have was a call center, right? And you've seen call centers, and usually it's hundreds of people and desks right next to each
they're
other,
all,
right?
all
Well,
talking.
right, they're all on a phone,
Yeah,
right? Well, now COVID hits and nobody wants to go to the office, right? So those call centers really got disrupted, and everybody who wanted and was used to talking to customers on the phone had to find a way to let their call center agents do that from home, right?
mm,
And a lot of the old call center software just it wasn't designed for that. So Traeger
mm,
didn't have to say, how do I solve this? They had the problem, and they didn't have to solve the problem, but they had to be able to articulate, I want to have call center agents at home answer calls and answer questions about Traeger. So I have all these agents, but I need them to work from home. And AWS had a solution that within minutes you can set up a call center and have agents log in from home. All they need is a USB headset and a computer, and they can log in and start taking calls, 800 numbers, the whole 9 yards.
nice.
It really is pretty cool. But the customer didn't need to know all that complexity. Partners and AWS employees obviously can help walk them through that so they have a successful solution. But they knew
Nice.
their problem is they needed to be able to talk to customers, and in this environment, that got harder for them.
Oh, wow. Thank you for that, because that
You're
was the
very
one
welcome.
thing that went through my head, and I think that's a fear maybe other businesses have. So, and I look forward to asking more questions on the back end as well. But thank you so much, Ben.
You're very
And
welcome.
I have the pleasure of introducing our very newest best friend, Bill Knitter, with Innovative Solutions, and Joe Marcrillo, who's going to take it from here and talk about sensitive data.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And thank you, everybody, for joining today. I am Bill Knitter. I'm with Innovative Solutions. This is Joe McCrillo with Huther Doyle. And we are going to talk through a real world scenario where we leverage a lot of what Ben was talking about to help Huther Doyle solve some of these business problems and challenges that they had. So we'll walk through it and hopefully have an opportunity to talk through some questions on the other end of this. So go ahead to the next slide, please. So I'll start by introducing Innovative Solutions and myself. I'm a principal consultant. I spend my time almost exclusively working with our customers, who are generally small to mid-sized businesses all across the country and actually internationally now. Innovative has been founded in 1989. We're an IT consulting and support organization. We focus on helping small and mid-sized businesses take advantage of the cloud and provide a whole variety of services to really help support their organizations. These small businesses span a huge gamut in terms of the type of businesses they are. Some are nonprofits, nonprofit organizations. Some are traditional brick and mortar. Some are startup organizations that only have a web presence. But they all really have the same sort of technology needs at the core of what we do for them. Innovative is about 75 employees. We're spread all across the United States. I'm coming from you, and Joe is coming to you from upstate New York right now, nice and chilly and snowy. And finally, we are advanced consulting partners with AWS. So our relationship with AWS is extremely tight. We serve over 400 customers in various capacities. All of them have some sort of cloud presence and engagement. We provide consulting services, IT support services, and projects. Really anything that is needed to help a business organization achieve their goals. We are there to do it and bring our technology teams to the table. I'll let Joe introduce himself as well as the great organization Huthor Doyle that we support.
So thank you, Bill, and thank you all for taking time out of your busy day to listen to what we've tried to accomplish, and I think we've accomplished pretty well, partnering with Innovative Solutions and AWS. I am Joe McCrillo. I'm the Chief Financial Officer of Huthor Doyle. We're a small not-for-profit organization here in Rochester, New York. We're about 60 employees, so hopefully that relates to a lot of the folks here, on the phone as far as size. We're a substance use and care management organization, so we're really community-based. Our primary business before the pandemic was face-to-face. We did counseling services face-to-face. We did care management face-to-face. In fact, that was one of the biggest selling points that we did as an organization, is that personal touch. So as you can imagine, it was a huge challenge for us as we pivoted, similar to many of you, in March of last year, and went to a fully remote, and as we continue to be in a fully remote environment. And one of the largest problems that we had to address, and we did through partnering with Bill at Innovative and AWS, and we'll go through in detail, is really how do we continue to capture the required documents that we really need to continue to provide the services that we want to provide to our clients. And so we have highly sensitive data, we have highly sensitive information, we have PHI that falls under HIPAA and various different rules. And what we really wanted to come up with was a secure cloud-based solution that allowed us to be as seamless as we possibly could as we pivoted to this environment. And I think we've come up with a really good tool, and hopefully we can empower a lot of you out there to think about what you're currently going through or what you've experienced over the last 10 to 12 months, and how you can come up with solutions and how you can partner with the right people to get there.
Thank you, Joe. So I'm going to start in on a little bit of background information to what ultimately got us to the point of evaluating an AWS solution. There were a whole handful of challenges that Joe and I collaborated on. Joe really, brought a lot of this to us and partnered with us. We've been supporting Huthor Doyle in their traditional on-site environment for years, actually. Supporting that clinic and the operations that Joe spoke about. But new challenges came to bear, and this was even before the pandemic. We started this project. So, one of the things that we needed to do is provide some mobility and ability for the staff to work remotely. And that could be from home or actually in the field. These are care managers that are providing services and care for clients and patients that are in really the most need in our communities. So that, especially pre-COVID, involved a lot of FaceTime with those clients, a lot of in-home services or services provided in both rural and urban settings, really in a large footprint. And a pretty dynamic working environment. And we wanted to provide a solution and some services that would work for these care managers, in any environment over a mobile hotspot or a Wi-Fi connection. This, of course, was put to the test, after we had this system in place when COVID did create situation where most of the staff could not regularly or at all access the office facility. So, you know, we're really solving for a mobile type of solution, but ultimately also had a solution that supported this organization during COVID and continues to. Other challenges that we had to comply with very stringent security and compliance standards. You know, the major source of data and information that Heath Doyle consumes is actually New York State, our state government, because this is a Medicaid program, and a lot of the data comes from the state, and there's a lot of stringent data usage agreements and requirements that we have. So we had to come up with a solution that was going to be able to meet those needs. The stakes are really high too with this challenge because of those requirements from the state. Really non-compliance, not being able to solve this problem would have caused the data to no longer be available to Heath Doyle, and this data is key for what they do in terms of providing care management for the Medicaid population. So we knew we had to have a solution in place regardless of what it was going to take, but we also wanted to still make sure this was something that was manageable by the end users and these care managers. We had the requirement that the technology platform be audited by a third party. The New York State government, you know, requires us to have a third party come in and audit and make sure that the system is secure. So we have to be able to prove that it is. Of course, this infrastructure needed to be cost effective. We wanted to implement something that didn't require significant, you know, cost investment or anything like that, so that we could continue to help Heath Doyle focus their funding on their core service and what they provide to their patients and customers. And then experience for care managers. We wanted to accomplish all of this. We wanted to provide that secure mobile platform, but still make it be an experience that was viable for the care managers, that supports the critical services they provide. So really keeping in mind what the actual end user needed and the experience they had, and not give them a billion hoops to jump through just to do their day-to-day work. And then finally, we want this environment to be supportable by IT and Innovative. Heath does not have a dedicated IT staff. We help provide IT services and support for Heath Doyle as partner, but you know, there's nobody really spending all of their time at Heath Doyle supporting systems. So we still needed this to work even in that environment. So we took all these requirements and we really considered a couple different options. One option that we had in front of us was to work with Heath Doyle and take their traditional on-premise environment in their office and basically bring it up to the standard that we talked about, and take their existing technology and enhance it, upgrade it, and support it to meet all those needs that we went through. So that was option one, and we'll call that the on-premise environment option. An alternative option that we explored and what we ultimately settled on implementing was the AWS environment, which was supported by our friends at AWS and managed through our services. And the reason we went with the AWS environment becomes pretty clear when you look at this table here. The on-premise environment solution, there was a significant need to replace hardware and invest capital. So significant spending would have been required to even get started in that on-premise environment. We also realized, as we looked at it, that as Heath Doyle experiences growth as well as turnover, which happens in every organization, there would be the need for additional investment and additional capital to be spent to meet the needs of that growth. Because if we needed more capacity, we would have had to buy more servers and infrastructure, and that was something we didn't want to have to really worry about or budget for. In addition, the security controls and the compliance that we would have had to put in place and established for Huther Doyle would have been so extensive because they would have had to cover things like the physical facility that Huther Doyle has. We would have to talk about putting in complex systems like camera monitoring solutions and robust security systems and processes and tools to audit and manage all that, which, of course, some of it is needed and in place, but to the standard that these data systems had to achieve, it would have been quite complex and costly to implement some of those security controls within the facility. With that, we would have seen higher audit costs. To audit a facility and an office and an entire operation is much bigger than auditing a cloud environment. We would have had to provide connectivity such as VPNs and other mechanisms to provide remote access, which is a detractor for end customers and end users. Nobody wants to have to log into 3 or 4 different things just to get started with their day. Finally, these systems, these on-premise systems, would require staff to come on site to complete certain tasks. So you have people now being tethered to the office, which was something that we didn't want to require. So on the AWS side, it's really the opposite of a lot of this. With the AWS solution we put in place, can you back up that one slide real quick? No capital investment needed. So we used a tool called Amazon Workspace, where essentially your end user computer lives in the cloud and not in your facility. And it's contained entirely in the AWS cloud. This infrastructure could be purchased as needed with low effort to scale. So Joe's organization only pays for the workspaces that they need month to month. And if they don't need a computer because somebody leaves, we turn it off and they no longer pay for it. Likewise, and we've seen this with growth, as new employees and new staff come on, we simply turn on more workspaces, we assign them to the user, and we're up and running, and they pay for that new workspace on a monthly basis, which is great. And we get that with the AWS workspace environment. The security controls are limited to the AWS environment. So all those details around securing the physical facility for the purposes of having servers and storage and data in that facility are removed from the burden of what Huther Doyle has to do. And we keep everything that's sensitive within AWS's cloud environment, and we secure that environment. And AWS does an amazing job at producing for us audit reports, business associates agreements, all the contractual things and assurances that prove that they are taking care of the security and compliance pieces in their facilities and systems that they need to take care of. And this stands up all the way up to federal government with FedRAMP and that sort of thing. So we knew that we had a compliant solution that could meet the need and didn't have to build it and invest in it right up off the bat. As I mentioned, audit costs are lowered in this solution. Security and compliance are achieved through the native tools. And then, of course, the real beauty for the end users is that the workspaces are able to be accessed securely from any internet-connected system. So as long as Joe's care managers and staff have internet access, they can access this secure system. So when lockdown happened with COVID, it really was just a matter of connecting to your home Wi-Fi and accessing the secure system versus having to go through a rebuild or any kind of adjustment process. Even over hotspots, a lot of people use their Wi-Fi hotspots or their cell phone hotspots and are able to effectively work in this environment. So, that was what we worked through. We implemented this solution, and we got it in place. And Joe kind of talk a little bit to these next bullets on what the outcomes were and what really affected Huther Doyle after we got this fully implemented.
And I think Bill touched on a lot of great things, and just to allow us to make sure that we have plenty of time for questions or anything along those lines, I really look at some key points here. So I look at speed. How quickly can we pivot? And we pivoted incredibly quick. We were fully in place on a Friday. We were fully remote on a Monday, and we really didn't skip a beat. And so you look at speed of change, that is allowed in this environment. You look at scalability from a business standpoint, and I'm putting on my CFO hat now for a second. I look at very little cost to ramp up to 5, 10, 15 more employees. On top of that, I'm looking at a lack of sunk cost. Think about how many times you purchase something only to find out 1, 2 years later, it's obsolete, no longer good. You have to sink more costs into whatever the new latest and greatest is. This has really eliminated a lot of the sunk costs from, especially from a physical server environment. And the other thing is for us is we've been able to then turn around and we have some affiliated organizations and say, hey, if you have the same problem, we've come up with a solution for you already. So especially, if you're part of an organization and you're looking for a solution for multiple agencies within your organization or something along those lines, that's the beauty of this is to a certain extent, it is a one size fits all, or at least it comes close to it. And really for us, what it did is it allowed us to get across the finish line as quickly and as efficiently as possible that met all the goals that we needed. And really, when we look at it, it was focused on the end user. Now, in our case, the end user for us was our employees. In your instances, your end users may be differently, but when you always think about how can I satisfy that end user properly and really think about where they live and what do they live with, it always makes it a lot easier to get compliance, to get it, acceptance and everything along those lines. And really what we've been able to do is create an environment that is easy to use, it's simple to get to, it includes everything that they have to do in any given thing with their clients in a day, and they don't have to worry about going here, there, anywhere. It's all customized for them, and it's literally just a click away. And that's the beauty of it, and really appreciate the partnership that we've had over the many years that I've been working here and working with Bill and working with other folks at Innovative Solutions. And hopefully everyone took something away from this, and look forward to questions.
Great, thank you, Joe. We're really proud of the work that we've been able to do together, between Huther, Innovative, and AWS, and it continues to be a great experience. And it really, once we're there and once we got this implemented, really we had so much flexibility moving forward. So I think that's the one big thing, in a small business environment that really pays off, is that flexibility and agility. I know we can answer some of the questions that have been put out there, but I will kind of wrap this part up. One thing that we are offering everybody in AED here is the opportunity to have a consultation with myself, Eugene, who's also on the call here, who's one of our account executives. We are always happy to chat with small businesses and organizations anywhere about how AWS can help their business, and what it would actually take to solve some of these problems, and talk through it. So our contact information is here, and of course we are extending that opportunity to everybody that's part of this group. And at the end of the day, we really just want to have a technology and business conversation about what's possible and how we can do things like what Joe's describing for Huther across the board. So that's pretty much what I have. I think there were a couple questions, but I'll turn it back over.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much.
If you don't mind,
Yes.
if anybody does have any questions and you want to take advantage of that that consulting that Bill just offered, please feel free to direct any questions towards me. All my contact information is right up there, and I'll work with Bill and we'll get it scheduled for you. So thank you in advance.
So if anyone is interested, and we have some folks that are here with us today, they could just reach out to you directly.
Yep.
Absolutely. Okay. Yeah. Feel free to call my cell phone. You can send me an email, whatever's easiest for you.
Oh, that's fabulous. Thank you all so much. Because I think one of the things that, and I don't know if I'd emphasized this in the beginning of the webinar, but we've been hearing a lot from our businesses just about access to capital to be able to put these systems in place so that you are volunteering your services to help think through some of this for the businesses. On behalf of them, thank you. I think this is an amazing opportunity, and I know it'll be most appreciative to the small businesses that are with us today. So with that, we have a question from one of our small business owners, Michael. And the question itself, I think it's one that a lot of folks may have, and it's basic IT security question for a small retail business. In order to keep their financial data secure, their tax information, their customer data, and they have an IT network with less than 5 computers and no IT staff person. It's on for the manager to make sure that all these things are kind of being taken care of. Do you have a suggestion for a relatively robust password manager app that is more secure and robust than in-browser password saving? Thinking of something like 1Pass, a monthly or yearly subscription. Not BlackBerry. Who uses that anymore, it says. And
I
that's the
think for a
question.
while, the president was using Blackberries for at least back the past 12 years. So, but that's wild. I miss my Blackberry actually. But I can answer. Yeah, I'll answer it in a couple different ways. Password managers, are definitely kind of necessary nowadays because you have so many different accounts, to your point, so many different systems that have your sensitive data. 1Pass is great. I think that's a great solution that the attendee suggested. I personally use LastPass. I like that product, and there's a pretty robust package available from them. But I will kind of hook this into the AWS conversation a little bit. The ideal strategy here, even for a one-person company, right? But certainly a 5-person organization, the key is to know where your sensitive data is and have some sort of control over it. And we talk about, Joe and I talk all the time about what we call our data perimeter or infrastructure boundary. And the ideal solution, where I see all of us going, is to take either the access to those different systems and that data, or all the data altogether, and put it in one place where there can be then one login to access it. And for the most part, that's all you need to really worry about. And you want that login to not just be a username password. You want to have a multi-factor where there's something you have, like a code or a fob or a text that comes to your cell phone, in addition to your password, to access that one place. And that's a lot of what is part of the solution that Huth Doyle has, and I think would potentially fit and help this attendee's environment as well. If we can get a lot of those different systems all centralized or accessed by one, and put some sort of single sign-on solution in place where you only have to log in once, you can not only be assured you're going to remember your passwords, but you can also feel a lot more comfortable that since you know where that data is, you can secure it all working with a partner or a vendor or what have you. So, definitely password managers are necessary, but I caution against, really having so many accounts and credentials to access sensitive systems, because those sensitive systems need to be secured as well. So a bunch of things that go into that, but I think we could definitely help, and would be happy to chat with the individual offline if that's necessary.
Oh, that's great. So, Michael, if you have any follow-up questions to that, definitely put it into the chat, into the question box, because I know a lot of folks nowadays, and even with us in local government, we're vulnerable in these situations where our data and our information can get compromised. Are there thoughts for small businesses? And I think of, like, we were hacked last year. I think of what happened in Baltimore about a year and a half or so ago. Are there things that small businesses can do to protect their data? I like the idea of having it all centralized, but what are some of the other things that they can put into place to protect their intellectual property and their their systems.
Yeah, I mean, I think the two things come to mind. One is awareness, right? We could put technology solutions in place all day long, but if your users and the people who have access to those systems aren't, trained and aren't aware of what to look out for and what to be aware of, that becomes a big problem. And things like phishing, where emails are fraudulently sent and are used to compromise access to systems. We are constantly, for me, on a weekly basis with the security work we do, we're helping customers deal with the ramifications of those sorts of things that happen. And
Yeah.
that awareness is important, and there's some great training resources that are available online, some for free, just to bring everybody up to that level of expertise. And then the second part, I really do believe that every organization has a technology opportunity and a technology footprint that is worth protecting. And
Yes.
and if you dig into, even just if all you have is a ledger or, QuickBooks or something like that, right? There's still sensitive information in those systems, even in the most, even in the smallest organizations. So leveraging, periodic review, by a consulting firm or an organization like Innovative or Technology Partner to kind of walk through what you're doing and where your data is. To the point that we've had today, if Joe didn't come to Innovative and explain some of these challenges that he was having, we would have never been able to access Innovative as a solutions provider for him. And Joe had that longstanding relationship through the organization with Innovative. There are plenty of partners out there that can help out through that process. And I think a periodic health check is something that is beneficial for all organizations.
I think
just to sort of share from the end user experience, maybe a different perspective, always sort of overshare when you're coming to a consultant like Innovative or anybody else. Think about it more in a bigger picture and talk about it in more of a layman's term, and let them do the sort of translation into what is the best opportunity for you. I think what users such as myself try to do is try to sound more educated than we need to be. And at times that creates really a lack of full communication. And, I always present myself as, I'm going to come up with this big, huge thought, and then we'll figure out how to solve for it. And that's really how we approach this. And I think, again, looking at, from a retail standpoint and a retail information and banking information and credit card information, not dissimilar to health information, incredibly important, really need to secure it. Can't say enough about, dual authentication, as far as logging in, single source. It just puts you at ease because, I have as much possible barriers for somebody else to get in. It's easy for my users to get in, and it really doesn't impact anything, and I know it all sits in one place. But again, always think about it in a very large scope. Think about it, really defining what you do, how you do it, and again, focusing on who your end user is. And then, let the smarter people come up with the solutions, and luckily you have two really smart people here.
Yeah, I like that a lot, because I know even for us being in local government, we're sometimes targeted, and the stuff that's out there now, it knows our hierarchy within our organization, and it'll be your boss saying, hey, I need you to do this and that, we're working on this program, and it's like, oh, okay. If you're not thinking or constantly having that top of mind, it just one response or one click on a link, and and so I always think about our small businesses as well, because we're constantly getting training and people are sending out notes, and we're but to have that kind of luxury of having the number of people looking at it is not the same for the small businesses. Which leads me, Michael had a follow-up question about the challenge having a one system of going through a centralized location because of QuickBooks and Clover credit card processor, what he has to do for Virginia, you know, there are all these different moving pieces. And so we'll be reaching back out to you at a later point, Bill. So I
Great.
wanted to
Yeah.
let you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Reminds me a lot of Joe's situation at Huther. I mean, there were many systems, and you know, we can work through that.
That's wonderful, because I think that, and also with this as well, each business may have their own system or way of setting things up. So being able to talk to you all, I think, is also very important, because they'll be able to specialize it based on their experience, is what I would think. And I
Absolutely.
know we're wrapping up on the hour, but I do want to, are there words of wisdom, Eugene, Joe, or Bill, that you would like to leave with the audience as they go on their journey into 2021? What would be the main thing you want to leave with people today?
So I'll go first really quick. Don't think about limits. Don't think about this as sort of a negative. I always look at it as any horrible situation always has a light and a reason why you got to go through it. And I think for us as a whole, what I've looked at is a huge opportunity to use, you know, the resources that we have and the partnerships that we have to reach folks that we never ever could before. And that's through either fundraising and support or through client benefit. And we've really been able to expand our reach geographically for a very small company to make us look very large. And the folks that I've really talked to over the last 12 months have always thought we're probably a 200 to 300 employee company and not a 50 to 60 employee company. But think that way, always think that way. And the more you think that way, the better off you're going to be.
I absolutely love that. And I think in times of distress like we're in with the health pandemic, there are also lots of opportunities that find their way. And thank you for that, Joe. That's awesome.
I'll just real quickly dovetail into that. You know, it's a really exciting time to be in IT. I've been in IT in this business for over 20 years. But for the small and mid-sized business, and especially the small and very small business, it's a very exciting time, because the technology that's available with AWS, the solutions that are available with AWS 10 years ago were not reachable by a small business. You know, and with the cloud, we can now take the same type of services and technology that are being leveraged by Fortune 500 companies, and it's now reachable for small business. And that means a lot of different things. And, you know, really the small business really only cares about the things that's most important to them. But with all the hundreds and hundreds of services that are available, we can almost always bring something to the table. So for me, it's a really exciting time. It just makes that toolbox that we can leverage to help a small business so much larger than it ever was. And
Nice.
only going to continue to proliferate in that way.
That's great. It's made things more accessible.
Absolutely.
Made it more accessible. And Eugene, do you have any final words that you'd like to leave with everyone?
Well, typically I like to leave the words of wisdom to Bill here. But yeah, I mean, I know you did touch on it a little bit, but just never, ever be hesitant on asking questions. You know, from account executive perspective, I love it when my customers ask questions, because it kind of steers the conversation, and it shows, you know, shows what areas we can typically help out with, and that's very, very important when I'm, you know, trying to frame a conversation and show the value that we can bring to our partners. So, you know, don't ever feel like there's any dumb questions. I know it's kind of an overused term, but there really aren't. You know, it helps because it just again it shows us, you know, what area of need that our customers do have, and I think at the end of the day it benefits everybody. So.
And it's really helpful. It's really helpful, right?
Absolutely.
Chances are we've seen it before too. I mean, that's the other nice part.
So I want to thank, on behalf of Arlington, I want to thank our presenters for today, Bill, Joe, Eugene, and Ben, who's here as well. Thank you all so very much for sharing your wisdom, sharing your time, being able to provide consultation to our businesses during this much needed time. And we look forward to hearing from you all in the future. And thank you so much for your thoughts and your expertise. And we'll see everyone in the very near future. So thank you all so much and have a beautiful day.
Thank you, everyone.
Take care.